Once again, good morning. And as we said in Sunday school, so thankful to be here with you guys today. Looking forward to it. Enjoyed this morning already, and looking forward to the rest of the day and what it will bring. And it's just our privilege each time God gives us that chance to share with the church what He's called us to do in Bolivia. So thank you, church. Thank you, Pastor. We love the opportunity to be here. I am Jacob McKinney, here with my beautiful wife, Shara, as we talked about this morning in Sunday school. Married for 10 years, married young, 18 years old when we were married, and so thankful for her. And then our two boys, Rylan and Landon, and then Hudson. The middle name is still out, so you can put votes in for that if you want. But we're leaning toward a couple of things, but we'll see. Maybe throw your name in the ring, and we'll see what happens. But we're excited about the family God's given us and what He's called us to do there in Bolivia. I will mention this about the video. We show quite a few faces there at the end. And I like to remind people, we don't just do that just to pull on your heartstrings, but it's to remind us, right? Missions, I think sometimes it can become a thing where we maybe put something on a plate and maybe say a quick prayer and we're done, and we forget what missions really is. It's somebody who's never heard, and they get an opportunity to hear the glorious gospel of Jesus Christ, perhaps for the first time, of what He can do for them. And missions is the difference between life and death, isn't it? It's behind every face is a soul, right? That soul has an eternal destination, heaven or hell. It hangs in the balance, and what's going to make the difference? Only Jesus can make that difference. And so I hope you're reminded as you watch the video that they're in Bolivia as well. There are people who have never heard and who need to hear, and that's all we want to do. We want to take God's gospel message to people that have never heard it. We often as missionaries say we're called to a place. And there's truth to that. We joked about it in Sunday school. Now hopefully just about everybody can point out where Bolivia is in the world, in South America, right? And we can do that. But it's not just about going to a place, right? It's about God's called us to reach a people, and He's knit our hearts together with the Bolivian people and to share with them what God has done for them. A big world today of 7 billion, and our piece of that is right there in Bolivia. So we'll show the video, and then as Pastor said, I'll share a few more words.
The landlocked country of Bolivia is located in the heart of South America and is roughly 3 times the size of Montana. Its population of over 11 million people is considered to be the poorest in South America. Bolivia is a beautiful country full of diverse landscapes, which vary from the snow-capped mountains of the Andes to the low-lying jungles of the Amazon. Those that call this country home are just as diverse as its landscapes. Although Spanish is the main spoken language, there are over 36 different indigenous ethnic groups throughout Bolivia, many with their own cultures and languages. Since its liberation from Spain in 1825, Bolivia has been a land of political unrest and turmoil. In less than 200 years of history, it is estimated to have experienced around 190 attempted coups. Along with political turmoil, Bolivia's people face serious economic hardships. The average monthly income is only $550 a month, but many Bolivians still just make $10 or less per day. In Bolivia, the legal working age begins at just 10 years old, and because of the low family incomes, around 30% of children in Bolivia are forced to work to help support their families. These jobs can vary from selling things on the street to the dangerous job of working in the silver mines. Not only is Bolivia a country filled with turmoil and poverty, but it also suffers from a deep spiritual poverty. Much like the rest of South America, over 76% of Bolivians claim to be Roman Catholic. But the Catholicism that exists in Bolivia is very different from what you would find in Europe or the States. Many of their indigenous beliefs and rituals have been carried over and mingled with the Catholic teaching. One example of this mixing of faiths is the worship of Pachamama, or Mother Earth. Still widely practiced throughout Bolivia, the worship of Pachamama takes place as part of many Catholic festivals and holidays. Despite all their religious efforts, Bolivians are still hopelessly lost in darkness. The country is plagued by the highest domestic abuse rates in South America, and it is estimated that about 70% of women and children have experienced some form of abuse in their homes. Looking to fill their void, many Bolivians turn to drugs and alcohol. And trapped in this vain religion, the vast majority of Bolivians have not yet come to know the peace and love that only our God can bring. The people of Bolivia have been blinded by the God of this world and need to see the light of the glorious gospel. My name is Jacob McKinney, and God has called my wife, Shara, and I to go to the needy country of Bolivia. We are sent out of Tidewater Baptist Church, located in Chesapeake, Virginia, and have partnered with Worldwide New Testament Baptist Missions. My wife and I both had the privilege of being raised in Christian homes and were saved at an early age. God brought us together in marriage in 2009, and just 1 year later, we had the unique opportunity to spend 3 months in La Paz, Bolivia with my grandparents, Rudy and Nancy Wolf, who had served there as missionaries for almost 30 years. During those 3 months, we began to form a love for the people of Bolivia and began to feel God's call towards missions. We had many opportunities to minister in ways such as teaching, preaching, organizing church events, and even helping with some construction projects. We left Bolivia with a renewed vision for me to finish my studies at Tabernacle Baptist Bible College in Virginia Beach and to begin to prepare for whatever God had for us. Throughout the next several years, we had many opportunities to serve in our church at Tidewater Baptist and eventually moved into the role of youth leaders in 2014. In the summer of 2016, God unexpectedly opened the door for us to return to Bolivia on a missions trip with our youth group. We were able to help in the ministry of Adeli Pardo, a national pastor and church planner in the city of Santa Cruz. God blessed our time there and allowed us to conduct a children's program in the small village of Santa Rosa. During this time, God really confirmed His call to Bolivia in our lives. We were invited to return several months later for a survey trip by the Murray family, who are missionaries in the Santa Cruz area. During that visit, in the spring of 2017, we had the chance to visit several cities and spent time praying about where God would have us begin. After prayer and consideration, God has made it clear that He would have us spend our first term in the city of Santa Cruz. It is our desire that upon our arrival to Bolivia, God would help us accomplish several goals. Our first goal is to complete language school so we can effectively share God's Word with the people. Another goal during this time will be completing all of the necessary paperwork to stay in Bolivia. Lastly, while working towards these other goals, God seems to be opening the door to serve under a veteran missionary who will be planting a church right outside the city of Santa Cruz. Our ultimate future goals are to plant indigenous, Bible-believing churches in areas of need throughout Bolivia, discipling new believers and the training of national pastors. Without the prayers and support of local missionary-minded churches, we would be unable to take God's Word to Bolivia. There are several ways in which you can help us as we follow God's call. First, would you please pray that God will open their eyes to the gospel and that God would use our family to effectively communicate His love and truth to the people? Secondly, would you please consider financially supporting our family so that we can go and minister to the needy people of Bolivia? They desperately need to hear the truth, and we hope that you will consider partnering with us so that we can go and share with them the light of the glorious gospel.
Many grope in darkness, searching for God's light, blinded by their sinfulness, lost in the night. Will you go and tell them of God's love divine, searching for the lost man, for God's love to shine?
Well, I hope that helped to share a little bit of our heart for Bolivia and helped to share a little bit of our story of how it is that we got here today. We are here telling and sharing with you about what God has called us to do there. I look back at that video and think, man, those pictures from 2 years ago before I started deputation. I like to tell people on deputation I've grown as a person, literally and in all other ways. And so I started out, I was about 170 in those pictures, and I I passed 200 last year, so I'm just getting there, you know. So, but anyway, a lot has changed since the deputation first began. But our testimony was there. I'll fill in a few gaps and then tell you where we are in deputation. As you saw, got to go, as I shared in Sunday school, for 3 months when we had just been married. And God used that trip in an incredible way in our hearts. If you have an opportunity to go, I encourage you. My goal today is to share with you our heart for Bolivia, share with you the need for Bolivia. Hope you have a burden for it, unlike you had when we first came. I'd love it if someone felt called to go to Bolivia. That would be incredible. We would love that. But at the very least, I hope each and every one of you can pray for Bolivia in a more powerful way. But we got to go and see it. I'd heard of the need because of my grandparents. But man, to see the need face to face, it will change you. We were in La Paz, just a handful of churches for a city of over 1 million people, and just a great need there. He took us up, and my grandpa took us up to the Alto, another city of 1 million people, and 13,300 feet, and not one Baptist church that anyone knows of exists there in the Alto. I know Bolivia is not unique to this, but it is startling to me. It's just amazing to me how many cities, I haven't done the math, but if you added up how many cities exist in the world that have 1 million people and don't have a true gospel preaching church, I think the number would blow us away. It's amazing how many areas have so many people and yet so little light. And so we got to see the Alto, and then he took us to towns and villages. I was telling Pastor last night at dinner, places that were several hours outside of the cities, but people were so poor. There was no way they were going to come to the city, no way they were going to hear unless somebody went to them. And God just began to speak to our hearts at 19 years old. Hey, would you be willing to give your life here in Bolivia to share the gospel message with these people who you know need to hear it? And then we saw the confusion. 76% Catholic, 24% of everything else that you can imagine. Witch markets in every city, and indigenous worship mixed in with Catholicism. Someone will go to a priest and go to a shaman. Someone will be at a Catholic festival and pour beer out on the ground and worship to Mother Earth, and just confusion. They just don't know. I think that pinnacle of confusion, or epitome of it, was kind of struck us in Cochabamba. We were actually on our survey trip. It's a beautiful city. You got to see the statue of Jesus Christ, right? The Jesus Cristo statue, that's in Cochabamba. Looks like the one in Brazil, but the one in Bolivia is a few inches taller than the one in Rio. So we have that on Brazil at least, all right? We don't have much in Brazil, but we got that, okay? And but it overlooks the city of Cochabamba, about 750,000 people, 1 million if you count the suburbs. And really what struck us was at the base of that statue. So we're up there on the mountain where the statue is. Jesus' arms is open wide, overlooking that large group of people, which is a powerful moment anyway. If you've ever been at one place where you can see so many at one time, it will affect you if you begin to think about what those people are going through, what situations are going on in front of you that you can't imagine. But then it's really what was at the base of the statue, and it's in a photo in our little photo album back there. It was Juan 14:6. It's John 14:6. Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Everybody in that city has been to that statue. Everybody has seen that verse. And yet you ask them, how are you going to go to heaven? How do you know? And they don't know. They say, I hope, right? I hope through the church. I hope through my priest. I hope through my padre. I hope through the... I hope. And they have no assurance, no idea at all. So close, right? In many ways, so many are so close and yet so far from the truth, having no true understanding of the gospel. And so we got struck by that, and then just the more lack of morality, the immorality, you could say. We showed some statistics in our video. The 70% domestic abuse rate is real. That's a real problem. Most of that stems from alcohol, right? So much positive advertising of alcohol in our country and very little of the downside of what can come from it. And Bolivia clearly shows it. I mean, to be drunk is part of the culture, and there's serious ramifications from that, and ramifications and just serious problems. And what do they need? I could tell you things that would make your skin crawl that still go on out in the countryside, all the way up to human sacrifices still thought to go on in some places in Bolivia. What's going to change any of that? What do they need? They just need Jesus, right? They need the gospel message. They need to be redeemed, right? They need to hear that truth. That's it. It's as simple as that. We could look down our noses at them, it would do us no good. They don't need my Americanism. They don't need my culture. They need Jesus. That's it. And so that's what we want to do. That's what we want to take. And so we left Bolivia in tears at 19, 20 years old, hoping one day we would be back, just not knowing when. And our video showed that. I shared in Sunday school, God opens the right doors at the right time. 6 years later, we had our youth group, and we were going to go to England. And we were very excited about our England trip. We had raised all the money, all our mission teens at the church, not the whole teen group, but the mission teens had raised the money, and we were ready to go. And then the missionary canceled, sent the email, said, you can't come, I'm sorry, things have come up. And as the spiritual youth pastor, I was like, oh, this is fine, no problem. No, I was worried, I was freaking out. I was like, we raised all this money, what are we going to do now? This is crazy, this is not, you can't cancel on us. And, but, we just politely said, we understand, and that's fine. And we began to search for a place to go. And really the only open door that came up through our emailing of missionaries that our church supported was a national pastor in Bolivia. That was not by accident. That God once again led us to Bolivia all those years later and confirmed his call in our hearts and our lives. This is where I want you to be. And when we came back from that trip, our pastor already knew that I was going to ask him to come to his office and speak with him. And he already knew what I was going to tell him, that we were going to need to get the ball rolling towards deputation, toward a survey trip, that this is the direction God was leading us in. And so we did. We went on that survey trip in 2017, confirmed that we were going to be working with the Murrays. The Murray family saw in our video at the end of that survey trip. We're at their table. We're in their house. And I'm about to speak. He's about to speak. My wife and I have been praying about it for the whole 10 days. We were about to ask him, can we come work with you for our first year? Well, we were interrupting each other. He was about to ask us, would you and your wife like to come work with us for the first year? And so God just has put every piece into place just as he would have it and opened up just the right door. So that's the update to the video. At the time, it was a little unsure, but that's what we will be doing. When we arrive to Bolivia, we will be working with the Murrays for that first year. But we did join with Worldwide in the fall of 2017 and started deputation officially on the road last January. So we've been a little over 18 months. We're at 86% committed support. We're so thankful for that. And our goal is to be done, totally supported, full support by the end of the year, and then on to Bolivia in early 2020. And we trust that God's going to answer that prayer. We know that he will. We ask that you take our prayer card, please. As Pastor said, please pray for us. There's a lot of miles to travel, maybe 25,000 miles left to travel between now and the end of the year. And that's about another 30 meetings to go. And just pray that God blesses, God opens the right doors, and that the rest of the support would come in. And then when you see that card, think of my wife, of course, with the baby coming in August. We would appreciate that so much. We have a couple weeks off in August as we try to get settled, and the fall gets really busy again. And so just pray for grace for her and for the baby. And then pray for Bolivia. Every church we've been in, I've announced this, and I've just tried to be consistent in asking for prayer. Big elections in Bolivia in November. Brazil had big elections a few years ago. They went very well. Bolivia is going through a similar circumstance. Venezuela, as if you follow the news, Venezuela has gone through a lot of stuff in recent years. Bolivia is headed that direction in that the current president is running for his fourth term. He's only allowed to run for 2. So it's really the next dictatorship in South America is probably Bolivia, but he can lose. He does not have half the country's support. And so there's just going to be a lot of upheaval, a lot of unrest in November. So just if you think about Bolivia, please think about those elections. They're a big deal. It doesn't mean if he wins, the door is closed to the country or anything like that. It just means Bolivia is going to continue to head in a negative direction. And so just pray for those elections. Pray God would intervene and they would play out as he sees fit. We know he's in control of all of that. Currently today, I can get in Bolivia with a religious visa with no problem. We don't want to see that change. We just want to be able to come in legally as they ask us to come in. We want that, of course, to be the case. Currently today, you can preach on any street corner, start any church you want. It's no problem. We just want to see that stay the same. So it's been so good to be with you guys today. We so appreciate your prayers. Thank you for letting us come. Look forward to tonight for your easy questions that you're going to nicely ask us, right? and we'll do the best we can to answer. God's allowed me to spend about 6 months total in Bolivia through my different trips, and so I'm thankful for that exposure. Shara has spent about 4 months in Bolivia, so God's given both of us quite a bit of exposure. But we're looking to get there full time. And I can't tell you how exciting it is for me to say that in about 6 months, we're going to be there. It's been a long time since our first trip, almost 10 years. And we are just thrilled to say that boots on the ground in about 6 months in the place God's called us to go. Think of us, think of Bolivia, and please pray for the Bolivians God's going to use us to work with. They just need to be saved, don't they? They just need to hear the truth. We know not everyone will accept, but we pray that many will. And that first year, as I said, we'll work with the Murrays. They have a new church plant starting in February in the southern side of the city. That's what we're going to be involved with. It's a Bible study right now. They want to see it turn into a church. So not only do we get to go to Bolivia and learn all those other new neat things, we get to see a church from the very beginning and get to help with it as much as we can with our limited ability. And so we're just thankful for that. I've been asked every place we go, well, where do you go next after that first year? I'll be honest with you and open with you. I don't know. But God has made every step of this way very clear. I am very confident he's going to do the same after that first year. And so Santa Cruz has a great need, but you could just about throw a dart at Bolivia and find a place of need. And so we're confident he's going to show us whether it's back on the west side where my grandparents were up in the mountains, or whether that's to stay in the central area of Santa Cruz, or even to go in some southern or eastern portion. We don't know, but we know God's going to use us, and we're thankful for him letting us be a part of his work. So.